The Attleboro sect is still quite active, based out of this house on Knight Street. In fact, Karen's parents' name, Dano, is still on the mailbox, but this is one home Karen Robidoux will avoid at all costs. The key to handling a flare is to hold it away from your body at an angle outside the boat so nothing gets burned. The victims are 19 and 20 years old, and they worked here as strippers until yesterday. Basically what we've got here is an attempt by the governor to stop the casino issue before it even hits the ballot in November. And good news, for once the government may be sending you a check. Now these are two people who share a marriage, 5 children, and a murder charge between them. You have to get over 3 or 4 lanes of 70-mile-an-hour traffic. Whoa. Up, they're honking at me, or you will not make it off at Eddie. In the newsroom, Suzanne Pajot, ABC 6 News. The Coast Guard helicopter swoops in as part of a safety course for fishermen in New Bedford. The men got to meet the rescue crew and learn how to handle an emergency water evacuation.
They can't touch the basket till it hits the deck. It needs to ground itself out because it holds a static charge, electrical charge that can really, be devastating.
Here the men learn how to handle a leak. 10 feet away, the trainer lights a plume of gas.
Get down low, take it right in.
So the men can practice with a fire extinguisher, because if you don't know what you're doing,
you may be racing into a situation where it's going to do more damage than good.
It's important to know how to inflate the life raft. And take it from this reporter, flares aren't as easy as they look. The key to handling a flare is to hold it away from your body at an angle outside the boat so nothing gets burned. The most important piece of safety equipment is the survival suit. Many of the men had never even gotten theirs wet.
They're left in the closet. They try to get on the life rafts without a survival suit. They just don't put them on.
If you don't wear one,
you're going to die.
Fishing remains one of the most dangerous jobs on Earth, but a little knowledge goes a long way.
A lot of times you go through training and you don't have time to do what you're supposed to do. And this will give you the basics to maybe someday it'll save your life or somebody else's life.
In New Bedford, Suzanne Pajot, ABC 6 News. Capitol Police forced this man to the ground on the doorstep of the State House, cuffed him, searched his pockets, and bundled him inside for questioning. Then they sifted through the contents of a red cloth sack the man had been carrying. It contained what police said looked like the makings of a homemade bomb, including a circuit board, some wiring, scissors, a lighter, and a car speaker. Cops were at a loss to explain the broken statue, the straw hat, the felt cap, and what looked like cross strings for a marionette. Witnesses saw this beat-up primer-gray Dodge Diplomat roar up the State House lawn on the mall side and ricochet off the 12th step.
I was down at the mall and basically heard some tires screech like they were trying to stop, and saw this car over here come up the State House lawn and looked like he tried to drive up the steps.
The man charged up the State House steps, found the doors locked, then ran around the other side with the aforementioned red sack, where he was tackled by Capitol Police.
A little weird, just not, like you said, not something you see every day.
Little Sarah, I love you.
Christina Krieger sings to her daughter Sarah, but gets no response because Sarah, at almost 2 years old, is trapped in a permanent state of semi-consciousness.
My little princess. And what hurts is when I look at her, she doesn't look back. It'd be one thing if she was born like this, but she wasn't. She was perfectly healthy.
Christina says Women and Infants Hospital told her that Sarah somehow contracted meningitis and strep B.
Sanitary precautions were not taken in the care of my daughter, thus causing the breakdown and having her get this infection and end up the way she is.
According to Christina, some 30 hours after Sarah's birth, a nurse noticed the baby was having trouble breathing.
She grabbed the oxygen, put the oxygen on my daughter to rush her to the intensive care unit. The doctor came over, took the oxygen off, and said, "Don't bother." And she then, in turn, just picked my daughter up and ran her to the intensive care unit.
But it was too late. Sarah suffered massive brain damage, resulting in violent seizures several times a day. She suffered a mild seizure while we were there.
To see your child suffer is the worst thing a parent can go through.
So the Kriegers are suing the hospital, and they're suing Christina's OBGYN, Dr. Jason Burstein, who has since lost his license in an unrelated case and declared bankruptcy. Dr. Burstein's attorney did not return our calls, and Women and Infants says they can't comment because of patient confidentiality issues and because of the lawsuit. However, just days after we first called for comment, their lawyers rushed to get settlement talks going. Sarah will need special care for the rest of her life. Social Security pays for a nurse who spends 40 hours a week here. The nurse puts Sarah in a body brace for an hour each day, stretches her muscles, and uses a special glove to stimulate the baby's mouth so her muscles don't atrophy. Sarah can't swallow, so she gets a formula drip through a feeding tube in her stomach. Sarah can't cough, so the nurse has to guide a tube down her throat to remove phlegm. But the worst part is Sarah can't return her mother's love.
She can't say mommy, she can't smile. I don't even know if she knows what I look like because they tell me she's blind.
Sarah takes a cabinet full of medicines. Doctors say she'll never get better, but her mother simply refuses to give up.
People think I'm crazy. But if I give up on her, who's gonna fight for her?
Since we shot this story, Sarah has spent several weeks in ICU at Hasbro because of problems with the shunt in her brain, and it's especially tough because Christina has 2 other children under the age of 5. Women and Infants admits no liability here, but they are sensitive to the Krieger situation, so they have stepped up to the plate and offered to help her out financially in the near term while the settlement negotiations proceed. It seems that drivers around here are the kings of cutting you off, superior at speeding through yellows, reliable for running reds, the reigning champs of the Rhode Island slide.
I think it's just plain rudeness.
What's more, we're wicked good at weaving and, let's say, creative at courtesy. So why is that?
I don't know why they do it. They're just not courteous, in a hurry.
So what makes drivers around here so angry? Other drivers, especially people on cell phones. Can you believe Desperate Housewives last night?
It's ridiculous. They're on the phone, they're not paying attention to what they're doing.
You know what really burns me up? Every day as I get onto 195 here, I have 2 seconds to get over in traffic or I will be forced right back off the road, and people don't care. Around here, good guys finish last.
Rush hour, it's every man for themselves.
Drive the speed limit, you obey the rules of the road, you're going to be harassed. And that's where the road rage comes in.
But in our defense, the roads around here are made for madness.
Especially on 95 right by the Providence Place Mall.
So if you want to take 195 to the hospital, you have to get over 3 or 4 lanes of 70-mile-an-hour traffic. Whoa. Up, they're honking at me, or you will not make it off at Eddie. Fortunately, we're pretty good at racing across the roadway, and downpours cause us no distress. So even though 20% of us in the Northeast couldn't pass the written test at the DMV, we consider it an accomplishment just to make it through the gauntlet every day on the way to D&D. Suzanne Pajot, ABC 6 News.